My adoptive mother shut me inside the garage for hours and then said, "This is what you needed to understand." I gave a small nod, then resisted in a way she never saw coming. After my real parents passed away when I was 13, I grew up in an orphanage in Moscow. For days after arriving in the United States at 16, my new mother announced, "You're American now, and Americans have no use for Russian garbage." At 16, an American couple saw me during an adoption hosting program and decided I was exactly what they wanted. Through an interpreter, they promised me a wonderful life in America, my own bedroom, excellent schools. I didn't want to go, but no one asked my opinion. Everyone thought I was insane for wanting to stay in Russia, but something inside me screamed danger. The very first day in their house in Ohio, they informed me I was only allowed to speak English. Total immersion was the quickest method, and holding on to my old language would stop me from ever becoming truly American. I tried to explain with gestures that I only knew about 25 English words. The woman told me to call her Rebecca and answered, "Then you'd better pick them up quickly." From that moment on, if even a whisper of Russian left my mouth, even when I was alone, Rebecca would suddenly appear and take away my dinner or lock me in my room. The second rule was that I had to abandon my name. I cherished Sophia because it had belonged to my grandmother. Rebecca handed me a printed list of normal American names. I picked Emily because it was the shortest one on the page. She started calling me Emily right away and corrected me sharply whenever I accidentally said Katya. She told everyone at their church that my name was Emily and that I had been desperate to come to America. She would laugh lightly and add, "She's still learning how to express excitement." Rebecca enrolled me in the local public high school with no ESL classes because she believed special help would make me dependent and lazy. She told the office I was already fluent in English and simply shy, when in reality I understood maybe one word in 25. I never opened my mouth, so the other students nicknamed me the Russian robot. When I came home begging for help with homework, Rebecca said, "You're just not trying hard enough." Rebecca threw out every single Russian keepsake during my first week. She declared I was getting a fresh start and couldn't do that while clutching the past. I stood frozen as she tossed everything into the trash, unable to explain what those objects meant to me. Her husband, Mark, simply nodded along. Rebecca always cooked giant trays of meatloaf and heavy casseroles. She grew furious if I didn't clean my plate, insisting I would learn to love American food because this is what families do, we eat together. She refused to let me leave the table until every bite was gone. She ignored me while I stared at cold, congealed food for hours. I kept a secret diary in Russian so I could still think in my own language. Rebecca found it under my mattress and showed it to someone at church who could translate. She lost her mind when she read that I hated living there and missed home terribly. She called me ungrateful after everything she'd done to save me from a horrible life. I watched her feed the notebook to the fireplace flames and warned that she would send me back if she ever saw Russian writing again. I actually begged her to send me back, but the words stuck in my throat. After 7 months I still barely spoke English. I understood much more, but I was terrified of making mistakes and being corrected. She punished every silence by taking away possessions if I didn't answer questions in complete sentences. Mark worked long hours, but when he was home he only said, "Your mother is doing her best for you, you need to be grateful." A new Russian boy transferred into school, Maxim, who spoke English far better than I did. Hearing Russian at lunch felt like finally breathing again. I poured out everything about Rebecca and Mark to him. He promised his parents, who had immigrated from Russia years earlier, would help. I called them from the school office phone and they sounded kind but cautious. They said my situation felt very strange. My English teacher noticed me talking to Maxim and mentioned it to Rebecca. She immediately called the school, demanded we be kept apart, and banned Russian anywhere on school grounds. She smiled that icy smile and told me, "If I hear one more word of Russian, I'm pulling you out and homeschooling you myself so I can watch you every minute." Then, almost gently, she added, "You are going to become American even if it kills you." I finally understood she wasn't exaggerating. Maxim's parents tried calling the house, but Rebecca told them never to contact us again. That night I lay in bed repeating her sentence like a death threat, "Even if it kills you." She had said it so calmly, so certainly. Sleep became impossible. My mind started making escape plans because I was no longer about language or culture, it was about survival. My stomach hurt constantly from the food I was forced to eat. The next morning Rebecca acted completely normal, making breakfast and chatting about church events as if she hadn't threatened my life 12 hours earlier. I ate the oatmeal without complaint, face blank, thoughts racing. Mark sat reading the newspaper, never once glancing up. I finished and thanked her in perfect English the way she had trained me. Rebecca beamed and patted my head like an obedient dog. School that day was a fog. All I could think about was how to reach Maxim's parents without Rebecca finding out. At lunch I caught Maxim's eye across the cafeteria. He mouthed in Russian, "You okay?" I gave the tiniest shake of my head and looked away before a teacher noticed. Between classes I slipped into a bathroom stall, took off my left shoe, and carefully unfolded the tiny scrap of paper I'd hidden inside the insole. I stared at the 8 precious digits that might save me and whispered them over and over until they were burned into my brain. That evening Rebecca made me sit at the dinner table for 4 full hours because I hadn't finished everything on my plate fast enough. My legs went numb. I begged to use the bathroom, she refused until the meatloaf was gone. It turned cold and greasy, every bite made me want to vomit, but I swallowed slowly, mechanically. Mark came home around 9, saw me trapped with Rebecca standing guard, hesitated for maybe 6 seconds, then quietly went upstairs and shut his bedroom door. Rebecca and I were alone again. I finally forced down the last bite just after midnight. Rebecca looked at the empty plate and said softly, "See? When you really try, you can do it. Maybe this will teach you perseverance." She didn't even let me brush my teeth before sending me to bed, small, pointless cruelty. I lay awake counting minutes until morning. My whole body ached from sitting so long. I promised myself, tomorrow I would find a way to use a phone. The next day at school the counselor, Sarah, watched me in the hallway with worry in her eyes. She had tried to help when I first arrived. I wanted to run to her, but I looked away. If Rebecca found out I had spoken to anyone, it would be worse. English class spun around me. I hadn't eaten since the forced midnight meatloaf, and Rebecca had forgotten to give me breakfast as extra punishment. My vision blurred, my body gave out, and I collapsed, cheek hitting the desk. People shouted. Then darkness. I woke in the nurse's office with a juice box in my hand. The sweetness was shocking after so long without real food. I was shaking so hard I could barely hold it. The nurse was filling out paperwork. One word jumped out at me on the form, though I didn't fully understand it yet: malnutrition. Rebecca's name was written at the top as emergency contact. I heard her angry voice on the phone. Loud even from across the room. 25 minutes later Rebecca burst in, playing the perfect concerned mother, stroking my hair, cooing. Then she told the nurse, "Emily is just adjusting to our food. She's always been a picky eater, very dramatic." I sat silently while she lied. The nurse looked back and forth between us, clearly doubting, but she didn't call anyone else. Another door of possible help slammed shut. Rebecca gripped my arm hard enough to hurt as she signed the release forms and marched me to the car. In the driveway she killed the engine but didn't get out. She stared straight ahead, hands clenched on the wheel, jaw locked. Finally she slammed her door so hard the car rocked. I scrambled out and ran inside. The moment the front door closed she seized my upper arm and shook me violently. Her face was inches from mine. I smelled rage and floral perfume. She screamed that I had embarrassed her in front of the entire school, that the nurse probably thought she was a monster now. My teeth clacked together with every shake. I tried sorry in English, it came out wrong, so she shook harder. Mark's car wasn't home, we were completely alone. I stopped trying to understand her madness long ago. She let go and I slid down the wall. She ordered me upstairs. Punishment for fainting was no dinner. My legs trembled as I climbed. In my room I pulled up my sleeve, dark purple fingerprints already turning yellow at the edges. Something inside me snapped. I could not survive another month like this. Tomorrow I would call Maxim's parents no matter what. Last week I had found 4 quarters and 3 dimes in the parking lot and hidden them in my pencil case. After school I would find a payphone and tell them everything. I lay on the bed starving, stomach cramping. Morning came. Rebecca knocked once and announced breakfast was ready as if nothing had happened. My arm throbbed under the long sleeve I wore to hide the bruises. Downstairs Mark was at the table behind his newspaper while Rebecca served eggs and toast. I ate because my body demanded it. After a few bites I forced out thank you the way she liked. She smiled, nodded approval, then reminded me I needed to learn about consequences. Mark grunted and turned a page. I finished the plate with a blank face. Rebecca actually chuckled and told me not to miss the bus. I grabbed my bag, checked that the coins were still in the pencil case, and left. School was a blur until I passed Maxim at his locker between second and third period. When the hall was empty for a second I whispered in Russian, "Payphone. After school. I'm calling your parents." He gave one sharp nod, murmured, "Gas station on 5th and Main, 3 blocks, outside phone," slammed his locker, and walked away. My heart pounded with something like hope for the first time in months. The rest of the day dragged endlessly. In fourth period we watched a movie in the dark and I memorized the Russian-sounding numbers on the board just to stay calm. Lunch was torture. I saw Maxim but couldn't risk speaking. In last period I asked in broken English to use the restroom. The teacher barely glanced up and waved me out. Instead of going straight there I took the long way past the counselor's office. Through the window I saw Sarah on the phone, face tight with worry. I almost walked in, I almost told her everything. Instead I continued to the bathroom, splashed cold water on my face, and stared at the terrified girl in the mirror. Final bell. I flew out the doors, crossed the parking lot, turned left, and walked fast, checking over my shoulder every few seconds for Rebecca's car. 3 blocks felt like 30. Past the pharmacy, past the laundromat, until I saw the gas station. The payphone stood outside by the air pump. My hand shook so badly I nearly dropped the coins. One by one I fed the quarters in, then dialed the number I had memorized like a prayer. A woman answered in Russian. Hearing my own language broke something open. I sobbed and poured out months of threats, starvation, locked doors, the garage, the bruises, my terror that Rebecca would kill me or break me completely. I begged them to help before she pulled me from school forever. The woman listened without interrupting once. When I finally ran out of words she said calmly but firmly that they would call the school first thing tomorrow. Her voice felt like safety. I whispered "Spasibo" and hung up. I leaned against the wall, dizzy with relief, feeling lighter than I had since leaving Moscow. Then I turned. Rebecca stood 12 feet away beside her car, watching me. Every drop of blood left my body. She didn't speak at first, just stared with an expression I couldn't read. Then she walked toward me slowly, each step deliberate. She stopped right in front of me, looked down, and said in the sweetest voice, "Get in the car." My legs carried me like they belonged to someone else. I sat in the passenger seat. She started the engine. The drive home was perfectly silent, worse than screaming. Her knuckles were white on the wheel, a muscle jumped in her cheek. We pulled into the driveway. She cut the engine but didn't move for a long time. Finally she got out, walked around, opened my door, and pulled me inside by the arm. Upstairs she dumped my backpack on the bed and went through every inch of it, pockets, folders, pencil case. She dropped to her knees, yanked the insole out of my shoe, and found the scrap with the phone number. She held it up and asked in a terrifyingly quiet voice if I thought I was clever going behind her back. She closed the distance, grabbed the same bruised arm, and squeezed until I gasped. Then she dragged me downstairs. I tried to pull away but she was stronger. Mark was in the kitchen, home early. He froze when he saw her pulling me, eyes wide, but he didn't move a muscle. I screamed for help in Russian because English deserted me completely. He just stood there. Rebecca hauled me through the garage door. I stumbled down the 2 steps and crashed into Mark's metal workbench. She looked at me for a long moment from the doorway, then stepped back inside, slammed the door, and turned the lock. I pounded with both fists, shouting in Russian, in English, in any language, begging. No one came. My hands went numb from the cold metal. November air poured in. I was only wearing my thin school shirt because she had grabbed me without my jacket. The only light was a thin line under the door. When night fell, even that disappeared. I did jumping jacks until my frozen legs refused, then curled into the smallest ball in the corner, arms wrapped around myself, trying to keep warm. The garage smelled of oil and dust. A tiny window sat high on the wall, out of reach. I thought about my grandmother Sophia watching me freeze to death in an American garage after I finally asked for help. The idea hurt more than the cold. I don't know how many hours passed. Eventually footsteps approached. The lock clicked, the door opened, and warm light flooded in. I squinted up at Rebecca standing over me. "Have you learned your lesson now?" she asked softly. I nodded as hard as I could. I would have agreed to anything to escape that cold. My legs barely worked as I limped past her into the house. I thought she would let me go to my room and crawl under blankets, but she followed me upstairs, stripped the bed of every blanket and pillow, and left without a word. I lay shivering on the bare mattress in my cold room, teeth chattering, and finally fell asleep from pure exhaustion. Next morning I woke burning with fever, coughing, barely able to sit up. Rebecca came to the door, took one look at me, and for once seemed to realize how sick I was. I heard her on the phone downstairs, caught fragments, then slept the entire day on the stripped bed, shaking with chills even though the room was warm. And that was only the beginning of the real nightmare. She's calling the school to report I'm too ill to come in, so I won't see Maxim, won't reach Sarah, won't get rescued. This house has become my cage. From downstairs Rebecca phones again and says in her sweetest voice, "Everything is perfectly fine, just a touch of the flu." I shut my eyes and pray to be anywhere else. On the second day of staying home the fever has broken, the cough quieter, something feels wrong. Rebecca walks in carrying a tray and actually smiles, a smile that never reaches her eyes. In a honeyed tone that doesn't fit her face she says the chicken soup and saltines on the desk are real food this time. Then she adds, "I already called the school. We begin homeschooling next week." My stomach flips so violently I almost throw up right there. I can't stop her from cutting me off from the world completely. She leaves with that terrible smile and I stare at the soup, unable to swallow because nausea is choking me. That afternoon her car pulls out. I know she's doing the weekly grocery run. I creep downstairs and tiptoe to the kitchen telephone. No dial tone. I trace the cord and discover she has completely removed the phone unit from the wall and taken it with her. Every phone in the house is now unplugged and the cords are missing. Every ground floor window has brand new key locks I've never seen before. As I stand at the living room window staring at the empty street I hear her car returning. I barely make it back upstairs before the front door opens. Rebecca walks in with grocery bags, sees me frozen by the window, sets the bags down slowly, and gives me an ice-cold smile that stops my heart. She says softly, "I spoke to the school again. They've approved homeschooling starting Monday, so you won't ever have to go back." School was my last lifeline. Terror floods me. She picks up the groceries and disappears into the kitchen, leaving me stranded. Monday morning the phone rings downstairs. I crawl to the top of the stairs to listen. It's Sarah. She knows something is wrong. Wants to pull me out tomorrow. Help now. When Maxim returns his tray I slip the note into his palm. He pockets it without looking at me, then dumps his trash and disappears, face pale as death. The rest of the day I hear nothing, see nothing, learn nothing. Third period a knock on the classroom door. The teacher reads a note, looks at me, and says my name. My stomach drops through the floor. Rebecca found out. I walk to the door on legs that feel like water. The hallway is too bright, my footsteps echo too loud. The office secretary takes my name and leads me down a side corridor to the counselor's wing. I knock softly on Sarah's door. A gentle voice says, "Come in." Sarah is at her desk. The moment she sees me her face fills with worry. She points to the chair. I clutch my backpack like a shield. She slides a paper across the desk with large phonetic Russian under the English. I need interpreter. She helped me practice this sentence weeks ago. I say it out loud, accent thick, words clumsy, but clear enough. She nods, writes furiously, then points to her wall calendar. Friday is circled. She mimes a phone and mouths interpreter while holding up 4 fingers. 4 days is an eternity. Rebecca wants me gone in 3. Sarah sees the panic on my face, flips the page, circles Wednesday instead, and holds up 2 fingers. 2 days until the interpreter. 2 days until someone finally hears my real voice. That evening at dinner, Rebecca is almost cheerful. She serves meatloaf and mashed potatoes while chatting with Mark about church. She looks straight at me and says Sunday is a special service. The congregation is honoring her for rescuing me. I feel sick. She's going to parade me in front of everyone as proof of her goodness. But then I realize something vital. Until Sunday she cannot let me look bruised, thin, or broken. She needs me presentable. A few more days of safety. I force the tasteless meatloaf down my throat and clear my plate. Rebecca beams like she has already won. Sunday morning she lays a dress across my bed, pale pink with tiny white flowers, high neck, scratchy sleeves, the kind of dress I would never choose. She brushes and sprays my hair until my scalp stings, then steps back, tilts her head, and nods, satisfied. I look like a perfect porcelain doll. At church people crowd around asking in loud, slow English if I love America yet. Rebecca's hand rests on my shoulder, fingers digging in whenever I hesitate. The pastor calls Rebecca to the front and praises her charity. The entire congregation claps. She waves modestly and pulls me up with her. I stand there while strangers smile at me like I'm a rescued puppy. After the service, an older woman with kind gray eyes kneels to my level and asks clearly, "Are you okay, sweetheart?" Rebecca's grip tightens, waiting for me to perform. I look the woman in the eye and say, slowly, carefully, accent heavy but unmistakable, "I need interpreter." The woman's brow creases in confusion. Rebecca laughs too loudly, pats my head, and rattles off excuses about how I'm still learning, how adorable my mistakes are. The woman walks away unsure. Rebecca keeps smiling until we're in the car. Then the mask drops. Monday morning, her grip on my shoulder from yesterday still aches when the fire alarm suddenly screams through second period. We file out in orderly lines, but everyone knows it's only a drill. Kids joke and shove. Hundreds of students flood the halls. Teachers shout for order, but it's chaos. I see my opening. Instead of following my class outside, I slip sideways into the crowd, heart hammering. I push against the current toward the main office corridor. The halls are almost deserted because of evacuation. I burst into Sarah's office without knocking. She looks up, startled. I thrust the paper at her and almost scream, "I need interpreter. I need interpreter now." Sarah jumps up, closes the door, sits me down, and starts dialing frantically.
Like, subscribe, and smash that bell before it smashes you. Stay with Reddit Tales Times for chilling twists, haunting tales, and daily doses of the disturbing. You've been warned.
While stroking my arm to keep me calm. She keeps repeating interpreter and emergency into the phone. I see her calendar, Wednesday morning, Ivan, 9 a.m. 2 more nights. She scribbles fast, school can delay withdrawal for evaluation. She underlines it 3 times. Rebecca cannot legally take me yet. The all clear sounds. Sarah squeezes my shoulder gently this time and whispers, "Wait. Just 1 more day." I leave her office floating and drowning at once. That afternoon when I walk in the door, Rebecca is on the phone, face crimson, jaw locked. She sees me, ends the call instantly, and forces a thin smile. The school refuses to process the withdrawal until some ridiculous evaluation. You have to go 3 more days. Her eyes promise those 3 days will be hell. Mark sits at the table pretending to read the newspaper, hand trembling. Rebecca sends me to my room. No dinner. Night falls. I hear them eat downstairs without calling me. My stomach growls painfully. Later, when the house is silent and Mark's bedroom door has closed, my door opens slowly. Rebecca stands in the doorway silhouetted by the hall light. Her voice is soft, almost kind, and therefore 1,000 times more terrifying. You really thought you could ruin me, she whispers. Tomorrow night you sleep in the garage again. And this time I won't open the door until morning, even if you freeze. She closes the door and I hear the new deadbolt she installed click shut from the outside. I lie in the dark staring at the ceiling, every creak of the house sounding like her footsteps. Sleep never comes. The digital clock crawls from 3 a.m. to 4 a.m. to 5 a.m. I am still awake when pale morning light finally creeps in. Rebecca cooks breakfast as if she didn't just sentence me to death. She tells me to hurry or I'll miss the bus. I choke down the oatmeal though my throat is raw from terror. At school everything is distant, underwater. I don't hear lessons, I only count hours until tomorrow morning until Ivan. Between second and third period Sarah appears at my locker. My eyes are so heavy from no sleep I can barely keep them open. She tries to talk, I shake my head violently and stare at my shoes. If Rebecca sees us together she'll kill me tonight. Sarah leaves, shoulders slumped. Third period I fall asleep on my desk. The teacher's sharp voice jerks me awake. I stare at the board but the letters swim. Only one thought keeps me breathing, tomorrow morning the interpreter comes. I just have to survive the garage one more night. Lunchtime I see Maxim across the cafeteria. He mouths something in Russian, I think he's asking if I'm alright. Teachers are watching, so I just stare at my tray. The afternoon lasts years. When the final bell rings I almost cry, I am so tired and so scared. The bus ride home is too short. I drag my feet up the driveway like I'm walking to my own grave. Rebecca is cooking, the smell of meat makes me gag. She points upstairs without a word. I sit on my bed and wait. Hours pass. Mark comes home. They eat together downstairs, laughing softly, never calling me. The sun sets. My room grows dark. I don't turn on the light. Around 8 the stairs creak. My heart stops. The door opens. Rebecca stands there, calm, almost gentle. Time to go downstairs, she says quietly. She marches me through the kitchen, past Mark who won't meet my eyes, and opens the garage door. November air slaps my face like ice water. She pushes me down the 2 steps. I stumble again. This time she doesn't even bother to speak. She simply closes the door and locks it. Pitch black. Freezing. No blanket, no jacket, no hope except tomorrow morning. I curl into the same corner as before, knees to chest, teeth chattering so hard my jaw aches. I count my heartbeats to stay awake, because if I fall asleep I might not wake up. Hours bleed together. My fingers go numb, then my feet. I whisper every prayer I know in Russian, in English, in any language that might listen. At some point, I hear a car door outside, not Rebecca's car. Voices. Low, urgent, speaking Russian. I think I'm hallucinating from the cold. Then pounding on the front door. Loud. Official. Rebecca's muffled voice, angry, then panicked. The garage door suddenly flies open. Warm light and warm air flood in. A man in a police jacket fills the doorway. Behind him stand Sarah, Maxim's parents, and a tall man with kind eyes holding a notebook, Ivan, the interpreter. Rebecca is in handcuffs, screaming that it's all a misunderstanding, that I'm lying, that I'm ungrateful. But Ivan kneels in front of me, wraps his coat around my shaking body, and asks in perfect Russian. Can you tell me what happened here, Katya? For the first time in almost a year someone says my real name. I start talking and I don't stop until every bruise, every locked door, every frozen night pours out in my own language. When I finish, Ivan looks up at the officers with tears in his eyes and says quietly, "This child has been tortured." Rebecca's screams fade as they lead her away. Sarah hugs me so tightly I finally let myself cry. Maxim's mother strokes my hair and whispers over and over in Russian, "It's over, sweetheart. You're safe now." They carry me out of that garage into warm, free air. I never went back to that house. My name is Katya again. And no one will ever lock me in the dark again.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss a twist. Stay tuned to Reddit Tales Times for your daily dose of drama, laughs, and unbelievable stories.